Me more live.
Out
Sweet.
there.
Welcome back to the United Journal podcast. I'm Joe, and I'm back joined with Rowan and Matt after quite a long time. How are you guys feeling after Sunday?
Good. Definitely good to be back.
Yeah, it's good that the football's back also, but guys, I have to say I really missed our chats, right? And our
Me too.
podcast. Over the whole summer, there was, I mean, it's still summer here in Scotland, but it was something different. We always had fun talking after the Man United games. And, during the Euros, it was like, what do I discuss here? Who's around? But hey, yeah.
We're back now, anyways, and we'll get stuck into the Leeds game on Sunday. So over 15 months, 500 days, and the fans were back at a full capacity Old Trafford. Felt absolutely amazing to just to watch the game. I think it would have been even more special to be there in person. But what were you guys' first initial reactions on the game? Then obviously we've got the new season bounce, new signings. We saw a Sancho cameo towards the end, and Rowan, I'll come to you here. What were your general thoughts on the game? Obviously, we're all buzzing about it, but did you pick out anything specific?
Well, yeah. I mean, first of all, the game brings to light how much we've changed as a football club, right? With Ole at the helm now, we have a really strong sense of focus on the small things, like having Rafael Varane come out and be unveiled just before the game. It put everybody else at a completely different level, right? A different level of motivation. Even though it's not like Man United fans need motivation again for a Leeds game, right? And especially after so many years that they haven't been in the Premier League, so that was absolutely great. The second thing is, I know Leeds play a lot into our hands, right? And that's why we shouldn't get too carried away with that result. But it shows how good Manchester United can be and how devastating we can be when we play against a team that really brings the best out of us in some ways. Yeah? And overall, it was really amazing to see the whole crowd back at Old Trafford, right? The fans back, the fans screaming. Everybody you could see in some of United's videos that they posted on the official channel, people hugging each other, going absolutely crazy. The last time we were all in there together in full capacity, we were celebrating just like that, but it was Scott McTominay's late derby goal from 25 yards out or so. So overall, very happy that we're back. But also, I would also temper expectation here, right? We've had a great window, we've had a great start, but we need to get behind the team, not get overconfident, but support them and ensure that we do this week in and week out as much as we can.
And then in regards to sort of the game itself, tactics. Obviously, we went out there. We played the strongest 11 that we had fully fit at the start. Matt, were you? I think we were all blown away by the result. But were there any individual performances that stood out for you? Obviously, Bruno, Pogba, but anyone else?
Yeah, I think major credit has to be given to Scott McTominay, someone who I personally have been a little bit in the middle on regarding what's his best position. Is he the level that we need if we're going to mount a serious title challenge domestically and in Europe? But and I know, as Ro had mentioned, it's one game, probably against his preferred opponent in Leeds, given the way that they tend to set up. But I thought he was amazing at the weekend. So he definitely warrants a lot of praise. Luke Shaw, right, picked back up where he left off. So yeah, and of course, how can you forget Mason Greenwood? His goal, outstanding. So a lot of really, really good performances from the team. And it's always good when, we can get solid performances from people not named Pogba, not named Fernandez, because oppositions are going to kind of gun for them. So if everyone steps up, I think we're in for a really special season this year.
Hope so, definitely. And I was just saying yesterday as well, it was 9 years, I think, since we signed Van Persie. And obviously the Greenwood comparisons are going to come in there. The killer instinct, they've both got in front of the goal, the movement, the style of way to play. Do you think, Matt and Rohit, also, I'll come to you here first, do you think that Greenwood has to be one of the first names on that team sheet throughout the season?
It depends on the game, right? I see the Greenwood Van Persie comparisons. In my opinion, he's a lot more talented than Van Persie. With due respect to Van Persie, yeah. I still believe that Mason Greenwood has a couple of improvement areas. He's still very young. and he's done really well. He's bulked up in the last 2 summers, right? He's become a much stronger player. His speed is absolutely outstanding. I mean, the way he took Luke Ayling on the outside pretty much, right, of that Pogba ball and scored a thunderous finish. Really, really good. But to answer your main question, yeah, I think we need to see Mason Greenwood play a lot more games, and definitely I would challenge him to be the starting striker, especially in the smaller games as well. Yeah, if not the bigger games as well. There's a lot more development to be had, and it can only come through him playing more often.
Yeah, and he was playing there sort of as a number nine, where he came through the academy playing. That's where he sort of made his name. And sort of towards the last sort of 2 seasons, when he broke into the United team, he was on the right wing. Obviously, after the restart, he played on the right, while Martial played through the middle and Rashford played on the left. Do you think he's more capable and just clinically better when he's playing as a number nine? Matt, I'll come to you here. Do you think that obviously we've seen him in across the front three? He can play in any position. He's that good. But what position would you say suits him best?
I think now's the time for us to see Mason at number 9. I think we've spent the past couple of seasons working on him, building up his physical stature, and he's been just kind of getting accustomed to Premier League men's football on the right. But I think we all, not just us, but I think the fan base, the media, everybody realizes, looks at him and says that kid's a center forward. So I think now we need to start really giving him some starts at number 9. Got to be strategic about it, because you don't want to put the weight of the world on his shoulders. But I definitely hope that this coming season we'll see a lot more of him playing centrally as opposed to on the right, because I think our depth out wide at this point doesn't necessarily mean that we need to continue to push him on the right when we all know his long-term future is center forward. So
that's where he's best at, in my opinion, as well. He's got that, the natural striker's instinct. We previously mentioned his Van Persie comparisons, and he's only 19 years old. You've got to remember as well. So he's got about, I'd say, 12, 13 years left to hit his prime. And if he's that good already, how good is he going to be in 5 or 6 years when he's not even a teenager? So he's one of the most exciting players I've seen in the United shirt. I know I'm only young myself, but the people I've spoken to, older United fans, my family, they've all said that Mason Greenwood's one of the best talents they've ever seen. And they've watched people like Beckham, Cantona play for this club, and they all say Mason Greenwood's one of the special ones. But
he's a generational talent.
He is indeed. He is the definition of generational, and he's also clear-footed too, but that's a discussion for another day. But then moving on to Pogba, and how good was he on Saturday? 4 assists. I think he's one of those players that when he's on his day, he can get a stadium going like no one else can. He's electric when he goes to it. We've seen him in the Euros with France. He's absolutely phenomenal for them, and it sort of makes you ask the question yourself: do we take the risk and tie him down and make him the best paid player at the club? Or obviously that risk entails him, possibly falling into a pattern of inconsistency that we've seen over the past few years. He hasn't exactly been at all times the player that we wanted. And Rowan, I'll ask you here: is it imperative that this club this season we tie him down and make him the best paid player? Because if he can deliver those performances week in, week out, why not?
I've always believed that a fit, happy, committed Paul Pogba at his best makes Manchester United infinitely stronger, right? It's just clear to see. I think that the best quote I've ever heard about this team is Bruno Fernandes. He raises the floor, but Pogba raises the ceiling, right? And you see that with that pass that he made to the assist to Mason Greenwood on the weekend, an absolutely inch perfect ball. And we know it. He does it. He does it. Week in and he can do it. Sorry, week in and week out. You see, in the Tottenham documentary, Jose Mourinho tells them, "Be careful. Pogba will play that ball," and Pogba plays that ball, that long raking pass. So the ability is there. He seems, I have to say, a lot happier since Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has been around, right? So if he's willing to commit, to stay, to be happy, to shut his agent and his family up from constantly talking about him leaving the club, especially on that sad incident of, just before a big game that really distracts everybody and creates problems. it's not so much about the money, because you pay a little bit more money, fine, but Pogba brings in a lot more commercial revenue and so on and so forth, right? And you look around the team right now, the personalities that are, I don't think you're going to have a Scott McTominay, or you're going to have a Bruno Fernandes coming and knocking on Ole's door and saying, why can't I get that kind of thing, right? The club will automatically reward them. The risk is, what if Pogba signs on, I make a number 400k a week, right? And then 3 months down the line, we're back to square one when we're seeing those inconsistent performances. That's what worries me. But if he's in the mood like he was against Leeds United, there's absolutely a no-brainer that Paul Pogba should stay and should be signed on. But if, big if.
Definitely, I can 100% agree with you there. But there's also a bit of a dilemma then that's going to arrive whenever Marcus Rashford comes back from injury, which is expected to be sort of around November time. Pogba's been given that left wing role for United. He had it at the start of the year. He looked like he was really enjoying it. We made that title push in January. We were even top of the league for a bit, and it looked like whenever he's sort of fighting for one specific goal and he's challenging at the top, which a player like him should be, that's when he sort of gets in his groove and we see the best out of him. But I think that left wing role is probably the best football I've seen him play personally in his United career so far. And we sort of haven't seen that in midfield. And whether that's down to him not having an adequate or a good enough defensive midfielder by him, beside him or not, I still think that left wing role is better for him. I think he enjoys seeing the advanced role. He wouldn't be the most defensively gifted player in the world. I think he's much better going forward and he offers a lot more on the wing. But if Rashford comes back, we have so many options across the forward line that you don't really know how to fit them all in, because you've got either Sancho, Rashford, Pogba that can all play on the left. You've got Greenwood and Cavani that can go down the middle. Then you've got Dan James. Sancho can play on the right as well. And Ahmad as well, pending he doesn't go out on loan. Do you then move him back into midfield and accommodate Rashford on the left? What do you do there? Matt, I'll come to you here. Whereabouts does he fit?
I think it's you take it game by game, honestly. I think there will be some games where we know the opposition is going to sit in and really camp on the edge of their box. And those games, I think, we're going to see Pogba in midfield. I think there's also going to be a time and place when you're going to need to rest Rashford, because he is going to be coming off the back of a surgery and, frankly, just played a lot of football recently. So there's no harm in putting Rashford on the bench, kind of seeing how it goes. And to be fair, same for Pogba. I mean, there's no harm in letting Scott and Fred get a couple of games, Matic, Van de Beek. We've got options that seem to be playing really well at the moment. So I think there's no harm in just kind of taking it game by game and then just kind of seeing what the opposition are going to do. And then I don't want to say react, because I don't want us to be reactive. I want us to take it to every single team that we play this year if we can. But if we need to call on Paul Pogba or call on Marcus Rashford from the bench, I think we could be in a much worse position.
There's much worse options to have on the bench there. I mean, we've seen, the sort of substitution issues we had in the Europa League final, which could have, should Rashford have started, should he not? We're past that now. That's not dwelling it. But Rod, I'll ask you then, where do you think Pogba should be utilised?
He plays really well on the left wing, right, when he does that role, right? And it's kind of almost like he was forced out there at times because Rashford wasn't available in the past and stuff, right? So what I clearly see is in these high-intensity games, we know the work rate of Fred and McTominay is much higher defensively, right? And even box-to-box, right? Now, Pogba, he will run 80 yards or 80 meters if you want him to in an attacking move, but he's not going to do that defensively. And I hear a lot of these arguments that, he does it for France, he does it for Juventus. Yeah, people have not watched him play for Juventus or France if that's what they think. He has never been good defensively. He never treads back. That's just who he is. But I think that's where you play McTominay or Fred, or even if you sign a Declan Rice or Ian Bissouma over there. But keep in mind that there will be games where teams sit deep against us, and that's why I think Paul Pogba in a midfield role, a little bit more advanced, playing off also Bruno Fernandes really helps. You see games like West Ham last year away, right? Fulham away as well, right? He brings a different creative element from the center of the park. And then you've got Rashford over there. So he's got a part to play. There's no two ways about it. And it could be either in central midfield or out on the left wing. And sometimes, now we've got Donny van de Beek, who his best role is number 10, if you ask me, right? He's not going to start ahead of Bruno, obviously, but there will be some games where Donny will be better sitting a little bit deeper, right? He did that in some of the preseason games. Also, he's bulked up a bit, so he can do that physical game. And maybe there's a game where Bruno sits out and Paul Pogba plays number 10. And we saw Paul Pogba's best, probably his best attacking football under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer came when Solskjaer was interim manager at the time, and he played Pogba in that slightly advanced role and almost a number 10, I would call it at the time, and he scored so many goals and assisted so many goals, right? So that would be my take on it. Yeah, play it again, just like Matt says, game by game, and do what really brings the best out of the player for the team ultimately.
Exactly, and there's no doubt that injuries, COVID protocols, they'll come and go throughout the season. So the amount of options we have there to choose from is brilliant. It's the squad depth we have at the minute is the best we've had in a long time. Obviously, Andreas has gone out today on loan to Flamengo. That was expected, and I don't think he was going to feature much regardless. But then moving on sort of towards that transfer window, we've brought in Sancho, we've brought in Varane. I think we've had a really successful summer. Obviously, we're only paying the Sancho deal in installments. Varane only cost 34 million, and then we've got add-ons on top of that. But I think I saw some of the fees that we've actually paid this summer have been around 25 million, which is obviously great business for the club. The pandemic has had a huge effect on football clubs around the world. There's not a blank checkbook to throw around anywhere unless your name's Roman Abramovich. So we can't obviously expect to spend like that on as much as I would like Erling Haaland. But going towards the end of the window, then it sort of keeps becoming more likely that we won't sign any more players. Except, I think we do need a defensive midfielder. Matic isn't getting any younger. Obviously, we've got McTominay and Fred there, but I wouldn't say either of them are natural sort of defensive holding midfielders. They're much better, and I think McTominay has even got the ability to play a number 10. I think he's great box to box. I think McTominay could play anywhere on the pitch, but I think Fred's better box to box as well. So, and Matt, I'll ask you here, one more signing. Obviously, we know we don't have much money to spend. Obviously the incomings are dependent on outgoings as well, so we would have to raise enough money. Lingard would have to go, a couple of others as well. If we had don't go all out like a Declan Rice for 80 million, but if we sort of had a budget option that you knew we could afford, who would you sign?
So funnily enough, we've been linked to Tchouaméni today. I've had a chance to watch him play over the summer. And that kid's a player, man. I think if we sign him, I think he could kind of give us the balance in midfield that we've kind of been craving, that allows us to kind of put Pogba in midfield. I don't know what the quoted price will be, but I know that the French league has been kind of in the news for not really having a lot of money. So he's obviously going to be cheaper than whatever ridiculous amount of money West Ham want for Declan Rice. So I think if we were to look into signing him, I think that'd be a great way for us to seal our business in this summer's transfer window. And I think at that point, this will probably be, if I had to rate it 1 out of 10, this is bordering on probably 8, 9 in terms of a transfer window, barring we ship a few players out, and then it'd be almost perfect. But Tchouaméni for me is the budget option if we don't get Declan Rice. Well, when we don't get Declan Rice.
Yeah, I think this has definitely been the best transfer window we've had since 2016 when we brought in Pogba, Mkhitaryan, Eric Bailly, Ibrahimovic as well, which was brilliant. And having 2 world-class talents in Sancho and Varane, that's going to help us so much. And eventually, I think this is the year we're going to win a trophy. And then Rod, I'll ask you here, we were linked to Camavinga numerous times throughout the summer. It looks like he could be on his way out of Rennes, whether it's on a free transfer next summer or around the 35 million mark here. Is he a player that you want to see at Old Trafford?
Definitely, without a doubt, because I really like Camavinga. Okay, now his agent he's appointed a really strong agent in Jonathan Barnett, right, who also represents Gareth Bale, for example. That's a sign of intent, I think, right, from a player, that he wants to go places, he wants to go to big clubs. Now the challenge with Camavinga is that he was always rumored to have a stronger preference for PSG or Real Madrid, and the question is, do we want a player to come in who is already thinking about a next step, right? Now, overall, well, at the end of the day, we could also make that argument about Donny van de Beek, right? Because he was supposed to go to Madrid. Now, the fact is with Camavinga, he is a very mobile player. Okay, he frees up space. He moves left to right on the field. He's very agile. and he's a kind of a Paul Pogba and N'Golo Conte hybrid, right? So he can play long passes. He covers a lot of ground as well. So he fits into that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer work ethic kind of player. Yeah. With 1 year running down his contract, he's available really cheap if we want to get him, right? It's been rumored he's been available for 30, he'll be available for 30 million. Uh, Concerns obviously exist over his adaptability to the Premier League, right? So I would still love to have Kamavinga at Old Trafford, even if he was there just for 3 years, 4 years, developed well, and we sold him on for a big profit. Remember, we've got James Garner also coming through, who's been, I know he has a contract issue, not signed it, 1 year to go for him as well. But he's got really strong potential, right? And he did really well on his loan spell last year. Besides that, I would also look at Yves Bissouma, because Bissouma, yeah, for Brighton, he's done really well. He's Premier League pedigree, and he won't cost the 80 million that Declan Rice will, right? So that's another really good name to look at. But overall, if we had an unlimited budget and we could spend the money, I would go for Declan Rice. I don't agree with this 80 million pound evaluation. I think 60 is a lot more realistic, but of course, English tax and whatnot. And if you put you sent Lingard the other way, you could end up with a good negotiation. Even if you ended up with 40 or 50 million pound for Declan Rice, you would have a pretty much complete team that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer can look at and say, I should have no excuse for not mounting, not mounting a title charge with this. So it is imperative that we get that holding midfielder. I just hope that we go and get him very, very soon.
He does seem like someone who would just fit this team like a glove. And he's English. We've got a lot of young English players in the team as well. It seems like he'd get on well with, and the chemistry would be good. But I think it's become clear to the board and the club nowadays that if you want to win trophies, you have to keep up with your competitors and you have to spend as much as them. But when you see clubs like Man City going 100 million for Grealish this summer, and they could even go 150 for Kane, that's a bit too much to ask for us this summer anyway. So I think while even if we did sign Declan Rice, which I think would improve this team massively, I don't think they would still be good enough quite to compete with City if they added Kane. Obviously, City have a bit of a striker issue at the minute. They lost Aguero, so they've just got Gabriel Jesus and Ferran Torres, who they're playing up there, who would be more not naturally suited to a winger. So I think Harry Kane is probably, they're going to go all out to get him towards the end of the window, and I wouldn't be surprised if he does end up in a City shirt. But moving on then towards other areas of the pitch, we've been linked really strong with Kieran Trippier. Obviously, it seems like that sort of died down a bit in recent weeks. Obviously, Atletico's price tag was reportedly around 40 million euros, which for a player of his age and that long left on his contract, I don't think any club in the world should be entertaining that. 15 million maybe was a realistic price for him. Obviously, we can't even guarantee him a starting spot. He was most likely just going to be a backup to give Wan-Bissaka some competition. But Matt, I'll ask you here. Trippier is a fantastic player. He won the league at Atletico. There's no doubt that he would improve, the squad depth. We've already got a good squad depth, and we could add to that with him. But do you think, obviously, we've seen what Alex Telles did to Luke Shaw. Is it important that we get someone other than Dalot to challenge Wan-Bissaka?
Not at that price point, I don't think. I think for the role that we would be asking Kieran Trippier to do, I think there's no harm in just letting Dalot hold that spot, personally. I think if we were to be able to sign Trippier for like around the same money, which I think for Telles was like 15 million or something like that, if we were able to sign him for that fee and get it done quickly with no hassle, sure. But I think, as we were talking about before we went live, I think the future is Ethan Laird at that position. So there's no sense in shelling out all this money, spending all this time to get a backup right back, and we have someone with higher upside in our academy. And as Rohit mentions, the defensive midfielder should be the priority at this moment in time. So I think we should leave Kieran Trippier in sunny Madrid and continue to look elsewhere.
Yeah, and also remember, right, it's not just Ethan Laird. Besides Ethan Laird, also you've got the two young Spanish fullbacks, Marc Jurado and Alvaro Fernandez coming through as well, right? They joined from Madrid and Barcelona, or rather Barcelona and Madrid respectively. So there's a lot of talent coming through, right, in the fullback positions. And do you want to spend 40 million on Kieran Trippier? Yes. 10 million, 15 million. I thought that this would go the Telles way, a lot of negotiation, and then Kieran Trippier, being a Manchester United fan, he would push, and then cajole them into coming down at a lower price. But it doesn't seem like it's going that way. I think I'm wrong on that one, but you never know. As Cristiano Ronaldo says, you never know, my friend, till the end of the window. So let's see what happens.
It would be good to get him in, I think, and add a bit of extra competition, but at the price that they're asking, I don't think it's, I think that's smart business. We always talk about smart business from the club. That is smart business to walk away from a deal like that they're pressuring. But I wanted to touch here on James Garner as well. He had really successful loan spell last season at Forest. And obviously with the midfield situation, it's pretty flooded. There's a lot of talent in there, and there's no guarantee that he's going to be able to get regular game time, which I think at his age is something that's really important. Not only at United, but if he goes back to Forest, he's been linked with Norwich. I think that one of those clubs, or Southampton, would be good for him. But he obviously hasn't signed his new contract yet, and there's a bit of it's up in the air right now whether he will sign a new contract or if he'll let it run out. But United, they will not let him go out on loan until he signs that new contract. I'm watching him play. He's too good not to tie down. We've seen this a couple of years ago, or only a year ago, with Angel Gomez. I don't think he's quite the talent that James Garner would be. So I know none of us were really too fussed about losing Gomez, but we don't really want him to be the Pogba, the one that got away, and have to buy him back in a couple of years for an extortionate amount of money. So Matt, I'll ask you here, do you think that James Garner, if he is given a regular run of games in the first team, is he can he get or even a rotational spot this season?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think we all know Matic's legs are gone. I think there's definitely going to be a time and a place for us to give James Garner minutes with a lot of the first team players, for us to kind of see how he cuts it at this level. And I think from what I've seen so far, from what I've read, from what we've heard said about him, I think that we've got another player on our hands. So I'm very interested to see how he gets on this year. But I hope that we can get him tied down to a long-term contract, because I was actually pretty upset when Angel Gomez left. So I hope we can get Garner tied down to a long contract, and I hope we can get him out on loan to continue his development rather than to be sitting on the bench at United and come in for the odd cup game or the odd 15-minute cameo, because I think that would be bad for his development.
Yeah, it's important that he gets as much game time as he can. Rod, what's your view on that? Do you think that, obviously being such a young lad, we need him to be playing as much game time as possible? Because if he's just sitting at United, he's not on loan, he's just sitting on the bench. He's just training. He's that's hard for him to improve his game and everything. Would you like to see him, get the club, even pay a bit extra just to tie him down and set him out on loan this season?
Yeah, I mean, look, he's not 25 years old, right? He's very young, so he's got a lot of time ahead of him, and in this case, I would take a bit of a gamble, right, with him. James Garner has got a really good temperament about him. He's not rash. He's very calm, collected. He's in my opinion the closest we will come to it in terms of a Michael Carrick replacement, right? All these years down the line, and he when he's around the club with Carrick, he obviously gets a lot of guidance and pretty much mentorship from him, right? And it would also make sense for him to play with Matic, learn from Matic in training sessions. But I fully agree with this challenge that he will not play enough, as compared to how much time he got on the pitch with Nottingham Forest, for example, right? But I believe that if he's going on loan, he's got to go to a Premier League club. Yeah, none of this League One, League Two, Championship nonsense anymore. He's got to go there. He's got to cut his teeth at a good Premier League club, and one that has a history of nurturing and developing good talent. Yeah, so overall, I believe in James Garner. I didn't believe a lot in Angel Gomez. I was very disappointed when he went. But I also challenge myself sometimes as to whether we are, they say that the cat that is burnt by hot water now gets scared of cold water. We're always worried about losing young players because of what happened with Pogba, and then we ended up with Andreas Pereira with a big fat contract, difficult to shift, and we all thought he was going to be brilliant. I thought he was going to be brilliant, and I was wrong, I have to say. Then again, Jesse Lingard is kind of the same situation, not cutting it as a regular United player. The concerns about Brandon Williams that you have, Joe, as you know. So, it's a difficult one to say, but we can only get behind him. Give him the best chance that he can, whether it's on a loan or at United, and hopefully he will come of age and be that really really strong Michael Carrick type player in the future for us.
Yeah, and obviously with the track record that this club has with nurturing academy players and the talents that we've brought through over the years. I mean, we're notorious for the class of '92, one of the best clubs at bringing through homegrown talent. Every time we see sort of a promising young player, we will always get ahead of ourselves and think this guy's going to be the big thing in a couple of years. So maybe it's obviously it's just our United fans getting ahead of ourselves, but when you see a talent like James Garner, you know that you've got to ride with him, and get him some good game time. But yeah, we're finishing up here. But is there anything else that you guys would want to add?
Yeah, I'm just curious to hear from you guys where you think, based on what you guys have seen us do in the summer in terms of new players coming in, how the Leeds game went, realistic expectations for this season. Joe, I'll start with. Go ahead, you first.
Realistic. I would like to say that we would finish second and we would give City a good run at it, because we gave them a decent run at the first half of last season, especially around Christmas time, and we've only improved our squad. And Ollie's he's gonna get better as a manager. He's getting more experienced. He has even more players and fans behind him. So I think we can definitely say that second, despite Chelsea, I reckon they'll be breathing down our necks for the entire season, but I can say the second is going to be hopefully cemented for us. Progress in a European competition instead of buying out in the group stages and dipping to the Europa League and having to go through that and traveling really long hours to go to Russia and whatnot. I would much prefer that we actually made really good progress in the Champions League. We've seen it, obviously after that famous night in Paris a couple of years ago, and we were unlucky to lose against Barcelona in that first leg. Less said about that second leg, the better. But we do actually have a decent record in the Champions League, and I think that would install a really good bit of confidence and positivity within the club if we can go far in one of Europe's elite competitions instead of going into the Europa League, which is notorious for hosting clubs like Arsenal and Tottenham. So hopefully none of that for us, and most of all a trophy. I just want to see some silverware. 2017 was the last time that we won something, and if we are going to win something, it will end a 5-year drought of winning a trophy, which for a club like United and one of the most renowned clubs in the world for their trophy cabinet and how much they win, 5 years is too long. So I don't care what trophy it is, whether it be the League Cup, FA Cup, whatever. As long as we bring that trophy home, I'm happy.
Yeah, and Rohit, what about you? What are your expectations for the season?
As a Man United fan, my expectations are we win everything. But we also have to be.
That's the spirit.
To be fair, for me, always the league is the sign of progress, right? You've seen Arsenal win a trophy in the last 2 years, and I'm not going to talk much about them, obviously, right? Look at where they are. You've seen Tottenham go to the finals of the Champions League in the last few years. What have they achieved? Nothing, right? Despite having very good players as well in certain positions, right? So the league is the real sign of progress. And Ole Gunnar Solskjaer did third, then he did second last season, right? So he's leading the club in the right direction on and off the pitch. So the league for me is the strong one that has to perform really well this year. We've got to be a minimum of second, and we've got to close that gap, right? And I think, like you said, like Joe, it's give whoever wins it a really strong run, right? And just close up on those small problem areas that we had. We were beating Manchester City last year, hammering Leeds United, but then going in and losing at home to Sheffield. This nonsense needs to stop. Okay. The other thing I would expect is a minimum of a quarter-finals at the Champions League. We need to start, cementing ourselves in that competition now, but not just as a participant. It's the first time that 2 years in a row we will be in the Champions League, and we've got to move on from the group stages, win the first knockout, and finally come out to the quarterfinals as a minimum. Yeah. And besides that, I would expect a minimum of one trophy, right, from the FA Cup or from the Carabao Cup. Even though, of course, our friend Pep Guardiola thinks that it is his birthright to win the Carabao Cup for some reason. So we've got to win one trophy. I think it'll change the tide a lot. It'll give a sense of strong belief to the players, and we've just signed a player who's won 14 out of 14 finals, right? So if that doesn't give us a little bit of inspiration, then I don't know what will. Yeah.
Do any of you want to shout out that comment there?
Yeah, shout out to Large Anderson and his brother Hugh, man. Shout out to you guys. Thanks for tuning in.
There's also another comment there. Anyone ready to give Garner a chance in the first team? Signing a midfielder is looking unlikely. Definitely. I mean, he's got the talent, and in FA Cup games, League Cup games, what better situation, to give him a run out? We've had failed midfield talents in the past. We all thought maybe Ryan Tunnicliffe, Ravel Morrison we're gonna break through like that. They didn't, but Garner looks different. What do you guys think? If potentially Van de Beek, Matic, they get injured, he's probably one of the other options he'd go to.
Yeah, I mean, I think as we said before, I'm ready to give Garner a chance in the first team. I think it's just a time and a place. Obviously, we don't want to throw him in the deep end against the Cities, the Chelseas, and the Liverpools of this world, but I think there's definitely going to come a time, probably in the cup games, when we're going to get a chance to see if he can cut it at this level. And I think we should all be excited based on what everybody's been saying about him. And as you guys mentioned, he could be the closest thing to Michael Carrick that we've seen. So definitely think that we should all be looking forward to seeing him play in the first team soon, if he doesn't go out on loan.
Definitely. Yeah, obviously we've got a big game coming up against Southampton on Sunday. It'd be good to see us win, 2 on the bounce. What are you guys expecting ahead of that game? Obviously, we want the 3 points. We have a good record at Southampton. Are you, first of all, go predicted starting lineups. Who do you think is going to get the nod there?
I think it's quite clear that David De Gea starts, right? Wan-Bissaka for sure, right? I think the centre-back partnership of Lindelof and Maguire continues, but you'd probably see Rafael Varane coming on for 20 minutes or so, right? Just to get him. It's been a week that he's been playing, right, with Maguire. So I think that's something that we'll see. Luke Shaw is obviously a starter, one of the first names on the team sheet now. Now against Southampton, I would still persist with in this case with Fred and McTominay, and then I would put Pogba out on the left, have Sancho on the right starting, Bruno of course, and Greenwood through the center this time, right? I wouldn't start Martial so quickly. Maybe give him, or if Cavani is ready to have a 10-minute cameo at the end, I would give him a shot at that as well. But pretty similar starting lineup from what we saw last weekend. If it if it's not broken, don't think we need to change anything right now.
It's also pretty hard to have warrant to drop Lindelof after how good he was against Leeds. But no doubt it'll not be long before he clears another error leading to a goal. And will be forced to bring in Varane. But Matt, what would you say then? Predict the starting lineup against Southampton.
I think it'll probably be the same 11 that we saw against Leeds. I think nobody warrants getting dropped. I would love to see Sancho come in for Dan James, but I think it may still be a little bit too soon to throw him in from the start. But if we were to make a change, that's the only change that I would make.
Yeah, I mean...
Actually, wait, hold on. No, I'm lying.
We want to see Sancho there instead of Dan James. Come on.
Yeah, we do. And I also kind of want to see Donny get more minutes from the start. And I think against a team like Southampton, who we know are going to press, I think having someone like Donny in the pivot, potentially, even though that's not his best position, I think he is really good, as most Dutch players are. And him coming from Ajax, I think that him against that press, he'll definitely be able to keep the ball and allow us to kind of get around that pressure that Southampton are going to come with. So, would love to see him get some minutes, but having said that, McTominay was great and Fred scored a goal. So, and Bruno had a hat trick. So I don't know where you play Donny, but Donny and Sancho, I'd love to see him minutes from the start.
Yeah, me too. But when you have a performance like you did on Saturday, you need a reason to drop someone. And obviously, as Rohit said there, if it's not broken, don't fix it. And says McFred or Doncic against Southampton. I think you got the wrong sport there for the second.
Yeah, that's nice. Doncic, I like that.
Yeah, but I think McFred for Southampton, anyways, you can't really go wrong. That's Solskjaer's sort of go-to partnership in midfield. McFred, Bruno ahead of them, Pogba on the left. It's sort of become a trademark. But anyways, we'll wrap that up here. We've been live for almost 40 minutes. Thanks so much for tuning into the first live stream after quite a long time. You can find our links in the description. Follow us all on Twitter. Subscribe to the United Journal on YouTube as well. And thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you in the next episode.